The 90s were a true mashup of styles. Music, entertainment, and technology came together to influence graphic design in major ways. Countercultures like grunge, R&B, television, and pop inspired everything that came out of this decade, where being cool and getting attention was at the core of creative expression. This also made the 90s a true experimental decade. Almost all design rules were thrown out the window. There were many experiments with color combinations to the point of compromising type legibility, computer modeling mixed with traditional graphic design techniques, and many more that simply kept the 90s fresh and relevant to this very day. I am Laura Kyung, and this video is brought to you by Envato Elements, the largest unlimited creative subscription in the world. Click the link in the description and get seriously creative. In this video, we will take a look at how pop and underground culture had an influence in graphic design and how it's making a comeback. But before that, let's take a look at the previous decade and its evolution. The 90s echoed much of the 80s, but in a more individualistic way. The start of the digital era took over during the 80s, making this decade uniquely futuristic, especially with the release of many popular sci-fi movies. The introduction of CDs and portable game consoles like Game Boy changed the way we looked at entertainment, while the creation of MTV changed the music industry forever. Technology saw the release of personal computers by IBM and Macintosh, with the internet is still in its developmental phase. PCs and Macs brought the first wave of design software which allowed designers to create progressive and cool designs. The famous Memphis group, whose style influenced much of pop culture, was born during the 80s and was characterized by colorful and abstract shapes that eventually made their way into the next generation. While the 80s started the technological revolution, the 90s solidified its importance and made it available for everybody to use. Photoshop emerged in this decade, allowing for exciting and new possibilities. Designers embraced digital tools and mixed it with traditional elements to create a new style. Animated films made a comeback with Disney and Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and Lion King. Pixar released Toy Story, the first feature-length computer-animated film. This helped revolutionize live-action films and video games. Personal computers became a household item. Kids were doing school homework on computers, the internet became available, CDs became increasingly popular, allowing us to share information easier. Music is a huge pointer of cultural evolution and almost a direct player when it comes to design trends. Grunge music inspired the anti-design style and eliminated any rules graphic design had, famous for their experimental and distressed looks. Graphics were all about looking messy, torn, and stained. David Carson is the household name you hear when it comes to rebellious design. The work he did for Ray Gun, an alternative rock and roll magazine, was full of experimental typography and unique views on culture. Stefan Sackmeister is another household name when it comes to experimental design, with his handwritten style and mix of physical and digital design. Rave parties ruled much of the decade with acid house and trance music that originated in the 80s, but got a more solid visual style in the 90s. Psychedelic smileys, contrasting typography, bold layering, and neon colors. Thanks to the advancements in technology, many adopted a surrealist approach to their graphics, such was the rave culture posters with fantasy themes that allowed the combination of 2D and 3D elements. Opposite of the grunge and rave subcultures was pop, dance pop, which was all about fun and color. The Spice Girls is one of the best brand examples in the music industry. Each member acted like a sub-brand with their own distinctive personalities, aligning with their core message of individuality. It was a mashup of styles that translated into graphics without a set color palette and a wide range of imagery and bold fashion styles. Many of the futuristic movies from the 80s influenced typographic experiments. The combination of multiple fonts broke the rules of cohesiveness. Glowing borders were completely against traditional design. There were plenty of distorted fonts and floating 3D text not only in underground groups graphics, but also in popular culture. In the 90s, album covers, TV commercials, and magazine ads looked neat, clean, and bright colored. We can't forget about the mashup style typography in advertising with different font styles being used on a single page. Jonathan Barnbrook is a famous designer and typographer, best known for his designs for David Bowie. Let's not forget of the wildly popular Comic Sans. The design was intended as a comic book style typeface and to be used in speech bubbles. Comic Sans found its way in school newsletters, shop signs, and commercial graphic design. Many foundries began to digitize fonts and distribute them via CDs. Suddenly, designers had endless options to create.
Struggling for a spark? Fire up the largest unlimited creative subscription in the world. Find and download authentic graphics, templates, photos, and fonts. Get seriously creative. And go supernova with Envato elements.
Advertising in the 90s was heavily influenced by the release of Photoshop. The opportunity to enlarge elements, juxtapose, and create effects just opened up designers' creativity. 90s ads are easy to recognize. There were the ones with a bright and solid color background featuring a product, the off-white blank background, and the ones with a set photo shoot and manicured background. Many ads had very little text included with the exception of technology-related ads. 90s commercials were incredibly iconic since technology allowed for collaboration between designers and animators. Since airing ads on TV wasn't as expensive as it is today, ads ranged from short movies to completely computer-generated animations. By the end of the 90s, graphic design became heavily influenced by the genesis of the internet. The World Wide Web was open for commercial use. Websites were simple and functional, often lacking beauty. Little color, lots of text. The concept of interaction and user experience design was still far away from its conception. Brutalism wasn't created in the 90s, but due to technological innovations and the internet, many websites had a default brutalist look. While there were innovations, there were also limitations in web design. With the popularity of the internet and the approaching millennium, sci-fi and futuristic styles started to emerge. High-tech, blue tones, all white and minimalist graphics slowly took over. Fashion was full of shiny clothes, silver eyeshadow, and experimental looks. It was a unique look. Think cyberpunk from the 80s with a new software. Trends come in cycles, and it's been a couple of decades since the 90s, but we can see that it is still inspiring designs that are emerging now. With many 90s bands making a comeback and touring around the world, the 90s aesthetic is here for it too. We're living in an age where open source applications and design elements are open for anyone to explore. Many of the 90s trends that we used to see printed, we can see now on social media. Brutalism had a resurgence in 2019 with chunky shapes and experimental fonts. Acid rave graphics weren't too far behind as well, with their sci-fi, futuristic, bright-colored, and warped elements. The spillover of the Memphis style from the 80s into the 90s also appeared in the last few years. A coincidence with the recently released Barbie movie? Maybe. Geometric shapes, kitschy textures, and abstract patterns have flooded social media, and the new anti-design still rejects the established design principles and aesthetic. Clashing colors, extreme layering, illegible typography are still key components of this neo-anti-design. 90s graphic design was a game changer mainly due to technological advances. With the release of the computer, the start of the internet, and softwares just being available to everybody, graphic design became easier to practice and to influence. Information was able to spread faster, making it easier to stay connected with pop culture. New trends emerged overnight, and designs were shared quickly over the internet. In the present day, technology is evolving even faster with the introduction of faster internet, open source design elements, free online apps, and social media. Since 2018, the 90s started to make a comeback, but we're seeing new interpretations of key 90s style designs being shared at a rapid rate. My name is Laura Kyung, and from all of us at Envato Tats Plus, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.